Well, welcome back to our third kitchen talk. We're delighted to be here. And we're still in the book of Genesis. And Genesis is all about God. So to begin with, I wonder, what do people out there think about God? And if you're a lady sharing this with other ladies, you could even pause this video and have that discussion. But Miriam, what do people out there think about God?
I think one of the most common perceptions of God is way up there. Like he is far away. You cannot access him. You can't even talk to him. God is to be left alone, and man is to be far away from God.
Yeah, thank you. Anything to add, Amanda?
Hi, I had a friend growing up who now believes that this God that she knows, is the God of all religions, so we can all come to him at the same level, and yeah.
So it's very easy to imagine up our own idea of God. And yet what we need to do is see how God reveals himself to us in the Bible. And as we look at the story, the true story of creation today, we're going to see not just the world that God created, but the God who created it. So what we're going to do, and you can do this in your groups if you're watching, is we will read chapter 1, verses 2 to 25. And let's do that now. Miriam and Amanda, you know your parts. So let's go. Chapter 1, verse 2. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters.
And God said,
"Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And he separated the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning the first day.
And God said,
"Let there be an expanse between the waters to separate water from water." And so God made the expanse and separated the water under the expanse from the water above it. And it was so. And God called the expanse sky, and there was evening and there was morning the second day.
God said,
"Let the water under the sky be gathered into one place, and let dry ground appear."
It was so.
And God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas.
And God saw that it was good.
And God said,
"Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds." And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it, according to their kinds.
God saw that it was good.
And there was evening and there was morning, the third day.
And God said,
"Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark seasons and days and years. And let them be lights in the expanse of the sky to give light on the earth."
And it was so.
And God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set them in the expanse of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness.
And God saw that it was good.
And there was evening and there was morning, the fourth day.
And God said,
"Let the water teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the sky." So God created the great creatures of the sea and every living and moving thing with which the water teems, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind.
And God saw that it was good.
And God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and increase in number, and fill the water in the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth." And there was evening and there was morning, the fifth day.
And God said,
"Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, livestock, creatures that move along the ground, and wild animals, each according to its kind."
And it was so.
And God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds.
And God saw it was good.
Oh, what an amazing story. True story. So our first point today that we're going to think about, the first question is, what does creation tell us about God?
You know, as we were listening to that and reading it, I was thinking about, okay, God was the main character in that. He was the one moving that. So he's separate from creation. And we kept saying he's good.
Thanks, Amanda, that's helpful. God is before everything. He is the creator. He's not created. And that means that this world is not an accident. And if God created it, then he controls it. And I think this passage shows us God gathering together whole oceans, making the stars as if he's just sprinkling salt somewhere. He describes it in this incredible way. He's in charge of it all. He's powerful. And like you said, he's good. Everything that he makes and creates, he says is good. And actually, I didn't know this until recently, but the original word used for good is a bit more like beautiful. So everything he makes is beautiful. So we have a good God, a God of beauty. So I wonder, what things do you particularly love about creation? Maybe you could stop now and discuss that. But Amanda, what do you like about creation?
My favorite part is looking at the sky. At all, I mean, thunderstorms, sunsets. I don't see sunrises very often. All of it, clouds, all the different kinds of clouds. I love it all.
Miriam?
Well, for me, it's, I don't know what I like about babies, but mine is human beings. Just seeing, we have a friend of ours who gave birth about a month ago, and seeing this little thing and thinking, oh my God, God created that, but then seeing this grown-up thing, God created me as well. Just the diversity in it. I just love how that shows God's amazingness.
For me, I love mountains and lakes. So I've recently just visited Fort Portal for the first time, and I love it. The Rwenzori Mountains, the volcanic lakes, the tea estates, the Matoki plantations. It just fills me with this joy. And I think just as we find aspects of creation that are inspiring, they point to a God that is even more inspiring. Okay, what else does creation tell us about God?
Well, I loved reading my part. And God said, just to imagine, he speaks and it was so. Yes, God speaks and it happens.
I love that. He's a speaking God. If he wanted, he could have just done a dance, and that was his way of creating. But he didn't. He chose to speak. And speaking is a really relational thing. We speak, we use our words to communicate with one another. So the God we worship is a speaking God, a relational God. And his words, they're here. Any words from God are here. We can trust them completely. And those words have immense power. And that means that God's word should be listened to above all other voices. And I want us to pause there and think about the different voices that we let into our minds and into our lives, because there are so many voices that we can listen to. So social media, or people you're following on Twitter, or the news, or even Netflix and films. And don't be deceived, behind every series is a writer and a producer, and they have a message to share. And we can so easily be influenced by the voices we choose to listen to, which means that we need to exercise caution and responsibility in terms of the voices we listen to, because none of them have the goodness and the power that God's word have. So Miriam, where can you be tempted to let those voices in that you shouldn't be?